This works. It's a tricky trick. I'm going to show you how to use Thea Render inside SketchUp to make materials that will glow, that will emit light, and so we can make like a neon sign. Um, I've done it. It took me a day to figure it out. I just tried it again. It didn't work. I had to restart SketchUp, and then suddenly it worked. So we'll see. I'll make the video, and you guys can tell me, "Holy cow, buddy, you do not know what you're doing over there." Share my screen. What else? SketchUp. We're gonna go to SketchUp. Here we are. Here's my sign that I want to make into a glowing object in the back of that box there. What I've got right now, you can see I've got Thea Render running right here. That's the bar for Thea Render. There is the little bar for the tools that you can use to get it going. I also happen to have my materials up, and you'll see in a second why that is. So what I want to do is, and let's just run a quick render on this thing. In Thea, basically, you can see I've got shadows turned on inside SketchUp, and you can see what's going on. As soon as I hit this button, you'll say, nothing's happening. Because inside Thea, if I click this T sign here, I've got an environment window right there. In an environment, I can turn on or off the sun and the skylight, which is like ambient light. So I've done this on purpose. I want to make sure that this sign is actually working. So you've got control here over things like the sun, and you can, of course, change how much sun there is and all that kind of stuff. And it's live. It'll actually update for you on the fly. So it's kind of cool. But as I say, I've turned off the sun and the skylight just to say, all right, what does this look like with nothing on? And then we can make sure that it's working. This little bar, then I click my stop button to go back to SketchUp. I'm viewing it in SketchUp View, which means I don't get those little faint gray lines. You can do it with edges if you want. But I kind of like this look. All right, here's the deal. What we're going to do is basically what you're doing, if you want something to glow, you have to paint it with a material, and then you have to tell Thea that material glows. So you start with just any material at all. So we can just pick something and say, I'm going to get a material. What materials you're asking me? See this little folder here? If I click that little folder, it pops up this window, which comes with Thea, and it's got all kinds of materials in it. So here's basic plastic and cloth and leather and displacement. And you might say to yourself, Tom, there are emitters right in here. I know, but I want to show you how you can make anything into an emitter. So we're going to get anything at all. We'll get like, metallic car paints, and we'll say blue metallic. If I double click that, you'll notice what happened in my menu over here, my color menu. All of a sudden that got added as a paint that's available to me inside my colors inside SketchUp. So now I can close this. I don't need to get into the materials anymore. Now what I've got to do is tell SketchUp what parts of this model do I want to glow. Not that part. This part. I can do the whole thing, or I might rather get into this. I'm not going to make you watch me the whole painful process, but I put 3D type on this wall, and when I double click it, I then get into that object, right? It's a group, and I have to open it up. So now I'm going to come back here. You notice you have to click it twice to get it to work. And then I can come back around in here and do this. The other thing, notice if you're using a script type, where the type overlaps will not fill in. So there, I've got my blue paint attached to that surface where I want that to glow. Now I have the trick to tell Thea I want that object, I want that paint color to be glowing. So where's that? Again, tap that top logo here. And if I click on my materials, let's just try something here. I want to see. Yeah, good. It doesn't show up. I don't see my blue metallic anywhere in here. Lots of other stuff, all kinds of stuff. In fact, a whole bunch of stuff for Teddy. Buh. But if you go up here and say, run my render, in other words, tell Thea what's in this model. You're effectively saying, go look at this model, check it out, run that thing, and then come back and stop. Now if I go to my menu, blue metallic shows up. In other words, it just went and found it because it was looking at that model that I've set up, and it says, hey, I found a new material. Let me put it in the materials list. So far, I hope you're with me. Now what we're going to do is click that blue metallic there, and we're going to go to Presto Editor. If you're in the presets window, reset to presets, you won't find it. But if you go back here and say presets, no, I actually want the Presto Editor right there. You will see that. Then we've got that material, blue to metallic, and I want to go here and say I want this to be a light. See that? Right there in the Presto Editor, click there. And it says, you want this to be an emitter? I certainly do. I want that to be an emitter. And I want it to be it's going to be 1600 lumens, or I can go to watts and say, I'd like that to be maybe 500 watts and see how that looks. And then I'm going to come back up here to my play button and say, how's that look? Oh man, does that look cool or what? It's glowing a little bit on the side. I might come back and say, I'd kind of like that to be maybe 2000 watts. And it will glow much more. See that? And it's live updating on the fly. And I can also say, what if it were pink? What if it were green? What if it were orange? So you can do some pretty sweet things in here with making a material, adding your material to your object that you want, and then setting it up inside here to say that material glows, it emits light, it's an emitter. And so that's how you would end up creating glowing materials inside SketchUp that you can run using Thea Render. I don't know about you, but I thought that was pretty freaking cool. Hope you have some fun. So long. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.